Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing an Adamancipator fossil deck profile. And hey, guess what? We don't need you here, Lego boy. We're going to get straight on into this, guys, because we lost Block Dragon, but this deck is not dead. It is absolutely still crazy to be able to play through multiple hand traps, especially with the recovery that the fossil engine actually pulls off in this particular build. It's really insane, the recovery and the OTK potential of this particular deck, and don't sit those rocks down yet. We're definitely going to be able to still play around with Adamancipator, even though we don't have Block Dragon. So, without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, because we have some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting your name in the description for every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, or even getting to Quest deck profile every single month if you're a patron, along with test hands. So, without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Adamancipator Analyzer. Analyzer is really good in this deck, because if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. During your main phase, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can special summon 1 excavated, level 4 or lower, non-tuner rock monster. Also, you can place the bottom on the deck in any order. Now, all of your Adamancipator tuner monsters share that ability to be able to excavate the top 5, pick a non-tuner rock, special summon it to your side of the field. And then you place them on the bottom in different, in any order that you particularly want. We then play 3 copies of Adamancipator Researcher, which is not $80 anymore because Block Dragon got banned. Last time I actually checked, this deck is not super expensive. It's like, she's like $25 each, which is not terrible actually from what they were. But if you control a rock monster, except another copy of Researcher, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and then during your main phase, you can excavate the top 5 off your deck. And if you do, special summon an excavated level 4 or lower non-tuner rock monster, and you place the bottom on your deck in any order. We then play 3 copies of Researcher, Researcher or Seeker is basically the same exact thing, except you have to control a Adamancipator in order to special summon this card, which is not that big of a deal because he's kind of like your follow-up. You usually want to open up a Researcher because Researcher is the best one, unless you're going second, which then you want to open up your copy of Analyzer, or you can just normal summon out your copy of Analyzer and then go off from there. Which is still fine because as long as you open up these 2, you're still fine as well. Or a combination of any of the 3 of these, you're okay, or any of the 2 of these and you're still okay. We then play a single copy of the Bluestone, which is the Adamancipator Crystal Dragite. Dragite is still pretty good in this deck because it lets you, if it's special summoned by the effect of an Adamancipator, you get to draw a card as well, which is really good to be able to help you just draw an extra card in the deck for special summoning a rock. So, that's it for the Adamancipators. Let's get into the generic rock cards. So for the generic rocks, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Withering Soldier. Withering Soldier is really good because if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect or destroyed by battle, then you get to add 1 card that specifically lists Fossil Fusion or a Fossil Fusion from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. It is a 2k beat stick as well, which is really nice to be able to summon to your side of the field, but it does lose 600 attack during the end phase. This card is really good and a really amazing card, just a normal summon as a 2k beat stick. We then play 3 copies of Quakimeru Guardian. Quakimeru Guardian is really good because during the end phase, you do destroy this card unless you reveal an Iron Core Quakimeru or a rock monster in your hand, which you're usually going to have a rock monster to reveal because the entire deck is rock, except a couple of spell cards. And also it has the ability that when a monster effect is activated, you can quick effect, tribute this card, negate the activation if you do destroy that card, which is really good just to be able to negate a card on your opponent's side of the field or in their hand that you're going to be activating. It's a monster effect. We then play 2 copies of Quakimeru Supplier. Quakimeru Supplier as a 2 of is the optimal number. I don't feel like you need any more than 2 in this deck. Because what it does is if a face-up rock monster you control is sent to the graveyard, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is special summoned, then you get to add from your deck to your hand 1 Iron Core Quakimeru or 1 card that specifically lists Iron Core Quakimeru from your deck to your hand, which is always going to be a copy of Guardian. I thought about playing Overload as a 1 of in this deck, but I don't really feel like you need it. It does block special summons, but I feel like Guardian does everything that you need it to do. We then play a single copy of Gigantus. Gigantus just banishes a earth monster from the graveyard, and then you special summon it to your side of the field. Very, very, very simplistic effect, and it just board wipes your opponent's spells and traps if this card is destroyed by battle, which is really good. It's a good extender, and you just need it as a 1 of. We then play 3 copies of Doki Doki. Doki Doki is one of those cards that you really want to open in this deck because you can discard a rock and then special summon a rock from your deck with the same original attribute and level as that monster in face-up attack or face-down defense. So basically discard a level 4, special summon a level 4 from your deck, which is really amazing in this deck, and it's really an amazing card in this deck to be able to grab any card that you particularly want out of your deck. We play a single copy of Weeping Idol. Weeping Idol is a good one-of in this deck because it has the ability that you can remove from play a tuner in your graveyard and then special summon this card from your hand. So it's an overall really good card to open up, and it's a level 2 monster that's a good extender in the deck. We play 2 copies of my personal tech in this deck, and that is 2 copies of Nemesis Keystone. Keystone lets you target one of your banished monsters, and then you get to special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, you shuffle that card target into the deck. And then during the end phase, if this card is currently banished, and this card was banished this turn, then you can add this card back to your hand. Really good combo card with your copy of Gigantus, and a really good combo card with your copy of your Fossil Fusion, because you can banish cards out of your graveyard to summon out your monsters. So it's really good. We then play 3 copies of Nibiru, which keeps this deck afloat. I mean, this card is really good. Just to board wipe your opponent, to be able to just go in with this card, to be able to just completely wreck the field, to be able to go after your opponent for all your different plays, like with your Skull Knight or your Skull King, all your different fossil monsters, your Adamancipators. This card is just really, really good. It is searchable in this deck, and it's just an overall amazing card. We then play a single copy of Plague Spreader because Oleon did get hit, and so did Jet Synchron on the last list, along with Block Dragon. So we play Plague Spreader now for our copy of our tuner monster that we're going to be special summoning off of our copy of the Crystron Needle Fiber. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. I know that is a lot of monsters. I believe it is 30 monsters that we're playing in the main deck, and it's 10 spells if I remember correctly. So just hold me kind of close to that. We then play a single copy of Monster Reborn. The Monster Reborn is just a good extender in the deck to be able to revive your rocks, close enough, rocks back from the graveyard to be able to get your cards back on your side of the field as good extenders. We play a single copy of Time Stream. I just don't feel like you need more than one. You're going to search it. You don't want to hit it with your Adamancipator cards. Searching it's not great. I mean, you want to search it sometimes if you use your copy of your level 4s to go into the level 6s, which is really good. But you usually don't go from 6 to 8. You usually just go from 4 to 6, and then you're fine, because you usually use your opponent's monsters to go into your 8s, which is totally fine. It's just a really good card overall to go into. 3 copies of Miracle Rupture. This card is good even if you're not playing the fossil version. This card is really good because it sends sends 1 rock monster from your deck that's level 4 or lower from your deck to the graveyard. And then if it's if Fossil Fusion's in the graveyard, you get to draw a card as well, which gets you a draw card, which is nice. 3 copies of Fossil Fusion. This card is the hands down best card besides the Adamancipator tuners in the entire deck. Maybe Supplier. Supplier's ridiculous too. But what this card does is it lets you fusion summon a fossil monster. Now, this is a really important card that if you don't understand this card, you really need to listen to this, because this is a very, very pivotal card in the deck. Because what this card does is you get to fusion summon 1 fossil fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from the graveyards. Either your graveyard or your opponent's graveyard. Whichever one is listed, unless it's specifically listed that it has to come from your opponent's graveyard. And if you banished monsters from both graveyards, neither player can target that special summon monster with monster effects. And if a face-up Fossil Fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or by card effects while this card's in your graveyard, then you can add this card from your graveyard back to your hand, so you then can fusion summon again. It's essentially Invocation is the simple way of putting this card, but only for Fossil Fusion monsters. We then play 3 copies of Adamancipator Sign. Adamancipator Sign lets you target a rock monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position. Then if you special summon an Adamancipator monster by this effect, you can take a level 4 or lower rock monster and place it on top of your deck. It lets you stack the deck with literally any Adamancipator monster you want, which is really good. So, that's it for the spells, guys, and the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Fossil Warrior Skull King. This card is the best card, probably one of the best cards in the entire extra deck, and the boss monster you're going to be aiming to summon all the time because it has the ability that it must be special summoned with Fossil Fusion. It can make a second attack during each battle phase, and this card attacks a defense position monster and inflicts piercing damage. All of them inflict piercing damage, which is really good. But it has a really crazy effect that a lot of people forget about. What this card does is during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard a card, and you special summon that monster to your opponent to your side of the field. This deck wrecks Eldritch because what it does is when they activate their Scarlet Trap, you can take their Golden Boy from the graveyard and put it on your field and then use it as a fusion material next turn or a link material and then use it as a fusion material to go for your copy of Fossil Dragon Skullgios. Skullgios I summon all the time when I play online against not Adamancipator, but Eldritch, or a Synchro deck that summons level 7 or higher monsters. This card is nuts. This card ends games like ridiculous. This is like playing a miniature Blue Eyes Chaos Max in your extra deck. And rivals it. It takes a rock monster and a level 7 or higher monster in your opponent's graveyard to summon this, and when it attacks, it does double piercing damage and switches the attack and defense of the opponent's monster until the end of the damage step. And it also has the ability that if this fusion summon monster battles, it does double piercing, and it's just ridiculous. This card is so good to be able to just OTK your opponent. Like, you attack into a copy of a monster as 0, and they're taking 7,000 damage. I mean, it's just so good. One copy of Skull Knight, you just need one Skull Knight because you're going to rank it up into it with Time Stream to be able to go into this card, and it has the ability that if it's in the graveyard, you can banish it and then destroy a card on the field. And it also has the ability to inflict piercing damage, and when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can activate this effect. It can make a second attack during each battle phase, which is great, but I kind of lean more towards going into Fossil Warrior Skull King over this card. We then play a single copy of Skullgar. You have to use an opponent's monster that's level 4 or lower, which is fine. It's really easy to do because you just use a hand trap to go into this card and a rock monster, and then must be fusion summoned with Fossil Fusion. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflicts piercing damage, and you manage this card from your graveyard to add a Fossil Fusion from your deck to your hand, which is really nice because you already have the rock monster in the graveyard with all of your Adamancipators going to grave, and then you also have monsters in your opponent's graveyard because they're going to hand trap you in this deck. One copy of Skullbone. Skullbone is really good because it can attack twice during each battle phase, and then you can manage this card from your graveyard to add a time stream from your deck to your hand, which is really nice just to be able to add that additional time stream from your deck to your hand. It searches it, and it thins the deck, and it gets a spell out of the deck as well. For the Synchro monsters, we're going to be playing a single copy of Dragite. Dragite lets you excavate the top 5 of your deck, and if you do, you return cards your opponent controls up to the number of excavated rock monsters. And also, if you have a water monster in your graveyard, which you have your copy of Needle Fiber, which is going to go to graveyard, and you have your copy of the Dragite in the deck, then you can once per turn negate the activation of a spell or trap, and if you do, destroy it, which is pretty good as a 3k beat stick. Borreload Savage Dragon, really good too, because you're going to have link monsters in the graveyard. It's probably one of the better cards in the entire extra deck, along with your copies of the Skull, or the Fossil Warrior monsters. This card's really good too, because it can negate cards, and it's just a really good card to end on. One copy of Raptite. Raptite's really good because it excavates the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you special summon one of your excavated rock monsters in defense position, and also you place the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. And then during your opponent's turn, if you have a wind, which you don't usually use that effect, so we're not going to go over that one. One copy of your Herald of the Arclight. This card's ridiculously easy to summon with your copies of the Link Cross tokens. It's really, really easy to summon in this deck. Metal Marcher as well. Metal Marcher is the only way that you actually resolve the effect of your copy of your Raptite. And Raptite's effect is that you get to target a card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. Metal Marcher helps out because if you use a copy of Plague Spreader that you special summon off your copy of Needle Fiber, then you use a Link Cross token to go into this, and then you get to bring the copy of your Plague Spreader back to your side of the field off this effect, and you get Herald of the Arclight, a token, a copy of Plague Spreader, and you get your copy of Link Cross, which then you can use Link Cross and the Plague Spreader to go for Masquerena, and then you have a negate on field with the Herald, and then you also have the Plague Spreader still on the field if you want to go for another Synchro play if you want to go that route instead, which is totally fine. We then play Appaloosa, because Appaloosa is really good in this deck to give you additional negations, and you can put monsters on the field like you wouldn't believe in this deck, which is ridiculous. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. Masquerena is really easy to summon, and you use monsters on your side of the field to link them away to summon out your copy of Appaloosa. 1 copy of Needle Fiber. Needle Fiber is a water that's important for Dragite. It special summons a tuner from the deck that's level 3 or lower, and then you can also use its effect with your copy of Link Cross. Go into Link Cross with your copy of Needle Fiber, summon out the Link Cross, and if this card is Link Summon, you get to activate the effect to special summon up to a number of Link tokens equal to the rank of the monster, or not the rank, but the Link rating of the monster, which is going to be 2 with your copy of Needle Fiber, which you get 2 level 1 tokens on your side of the field, and you're going to have a Plague Spreader with this on your side of the field, but the only condition of this card, that's the only drawback, is that you can't use the Link Cross tokens as link materials, but you can use Link Cross as a link material, so you just use Link Cross with the Plague Spreader to go into Masquerena, and you have a Herald on your side of the field, plus whatever else you have. They can then in the next turn go with Masquerena into Appaloosa and get you a crazy play. We then play a single copy of Gallant Granite for the very last monster in the extra deck. This card searches literally any rock and can special summon any rock from your hand in face down defense. Overall, amazing card, and the only rank 4 that you need in this deck. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I know it's pretty insane. This deck still pops off like you wouldn't believe. It can't play through 3, 4, 5 hand traps now. It can still play through 2 to 3 really easily, because if you have in your hand a copy of the Fossil Fusion, it essentially says, you can hand trap me, that's fine, but then I'm just going to activate this, and I'm going to go into him, or I'm going to go into a Fossil Warrior, and I'm still going to have a monster on the field. And so that's the way that it plays through all those hand traps, is actually with the Fossil Fusion, which is the why I love this deck so much, especially with the amount of hand traps that people are playing nowadays. So, anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. It is a super fun deck, and if you haven't played around with this deck, now is definitely time to pick it up before it spikes again. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check out the Patreon, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.